We are live. It is Wednesday, May 29th. Is it just me, or does it seem like this year is just flying by? We're almost at June. It seemed like we was just saying Happy New Year. But that's neither here nor there. Today, we have another episode of Principles of Winning, episode 110, that's going to be released at 12 o'clock today. But before we release that one at 12 p.m. today, we got to talk about a portion of that interview that really sticks out to me. And the name of this video, as I called it, is Listening to Your Haters. There's a success benefit. And my man, Bernie Dime, who I interviewed this week for this particular episode of Principles of Winning, he talked about how he grew from listening to the constructive criticism. Listening to your haters. How can you benefit from it? Well, first of all, let's discuss what's hating and what's not really hating. We hear this all the time. Oh, they just a hater. They got this criticism. Or they talking bad about us. They said this or they said that. Let's separate the two. Yes, there are times where people are literally hating on you for no reason. But there are times that we have to recognize that people may not be hating on you. They just may be giving you constructive criticism, or let's just say criticism. And that's where we have to decipher which one is it. And I have a couple examples today, but before we get into that, let's go back to a clip from this week's podcast episode of Principles of Winning that will be releasing at 12 o'clock p.m. today. You guys see the YouTube, everything that's going down at youtube.com/@Principles of Winning. Go there, get the podcast. But here's what my man Bernie had to say about listening to constructive criticism.
I said, yeah, but I'm going to screw up. He goes, then you'll screw up. Which it was true. I did. I put these out there. And what I learned is that there was a lot of blind spots that I had. And when I opened up to listening to the criticism, and it was constructive, I was able to really get. So I learned a lot from my peers. I learned a lot from my coach. All of those things helped to keep me honest and accountable.
I like the last two things that he said there. It helped to keep him honest and accountable. Honest and accountable, that constructive criticism. So really, we're not talking about the haters, right? There's a big difference. If people are going to hate, they're going to say whatever they're going to say, but we need to decide what is hate and what is constructive criticism, and how do we relate this to business. So I have a couple examples for myself. When I was playing in the NFL with the Chicago Bears, 2005 season, I had like 24 catches for 230 yards. It was not a great season for me. And I remember after that season, or sometime in the off season, the great Mike Ditka made this comment. He said that we needed to get a new tight end because the tight end that we have, he's not making enough plays. He's not stretching the field enough. And I was heated. I was upset. I was like, okay, this is the guy who I look up to. He's one of the all-time. He is the all-time great tight end for the Chicago Bears. I'm number 2 in all categories behind him for the time being. But when he made those comments, in which we all do at times, most of the time, is we get defensive. We get very defensive. Well, how could he say that? I'm out here busting my ass and I'm giving 100%. How can he say we need a new tight end? Like, I was pissed. And then in the offseason leading up to the 2006 season, there was this magazine article. You got all the magazine articles that come out at the beginning of the year. And one of the magazine articles, it stated that Desmond Clark knows he's on his way out because he listed his home for sale. And so one of those were hate, and one of those were based in fact, and based in actual research, and based in actual, hey, this is true. There's some truth to this. Well, that newspaper article of me selling my home, not the magazine article, had nothing to do with anything football related. I was building a house in Florida. So I was downsizing in Chicago area, getting a smaller home. I didn't do any of that because I thought I was going to be released or traded or anything. But let's get back to the constructive criticism. Mike Ditka said that I was not making enough plays and I wasn't stretching the field. 2005 season, I believe I had 2 touchdowns. I had 24 catches and I averaged 9.5 yards a catch. When you look at that as a tight end, even back in 2005, those are not great numbers. Those are not good numbers. And so he was speaking from a point of looking at the data, looking at the film, looking at what's actually happened, looking at the truth. Although I thought he was hating on me at the time, he was actually providing criticism, constructive criticism. So what's the flip side of that? If the tight end for the Chicago Bears, me, making more plays, stretching the field more, then we don't need to get a new tight end. That tight end is fine. So what happened in 2000? What happened in 2006 coming after that? So I met with the coaches after I looked at my numbers. 9.5 yards a catch, terrible. You got to average at least 10 yards per catch as just a average tight end. Talk to my coaches about hey, what's the game plan? How am I going to be used? They recognize that I need to be used differently, get down the field a little bit more, make more plays, all these different type of things. That next year, 2006, I had my best year. 6 touchdowns, averaged 13.9 yards, almost 14 yards a catch. We went to the Super Bowl. I helped lead that receiving corps to be better than it had been in previous years, all of us collectively. It was the constructive criticism that drove that. It was me looking back at those comments and getting over myself and getting over my ego and looking at the numbers and saying, you know what? I had a crappy year based on my standards and based on the standard. I had to do something about that. And that constructive criticism, when I leaned into it, created a better football player. Another example, I think it was 2001. I sat my wife down and I said, hey, I need you to tell me all of my blind spots, everything that I'm not doing right, everything that I can get better in, everything that I don't see. What are your criticisms of me? And man, she cringed. She had a hard time telling me some things that were critical about me that, quite frankly, I needed to hear. I didn't agree with everything. Some things I took and said, okay, well, I don't agree with that. I really have a different perspective. But there were a lot of things that I took from that were, oh, that makes sense. And like I said, she cringed. She almost cried telling me some of the things that I asked her to tell me. But that criticism that I literally had to make her do provided a basis and a foundation for me to become a better man, a better husband, a better father, a better businessman. It just created the opportunity for me to become a better man. 2 things with that is that you almost have to seek critique. If you're always around people who are telling you how good you are, can you get better? But if you have a council of men and women that you surround yourself with that will actively give you critique and tell you where your blind spots are and tell you how you can get better, the chances of you getting better grows exponentially. But the part that I really want to focus on, I need leaders to listen to this. The part that I really want to focus on is how my wife struggled with telling me this, because she had so much empathy for me while she was doing this, meaning that she put herself in my place and were feeling the things that I would feel because of the things that she's telling me. As leaders, we have to be critical. We have to encourage and we have to challenge and we have to push to get the most production and the best out of the people that we lead. That is absolutely necessary. What else is absolutely necessary is presenting that information in the proper way so it can be received. And I'm not talking about being soft. I'm not talking about, oh, well, no, I'm talking about being truthful, being honest, but having empathy with the honesty and the truthfulness of your words as a leader when you have to criticize the people who follow you. And the people who are following, we can't always go to, oh, I'm offended. How dare you say that about me? How dare you say I'm not living up to expectations? How dare you say I need to be better at this? Do you know how much I'm doing? And every pause, listen, and then determine what parts of that criticism can I actually grow from? Can I actually say, okay, yes, that right there, I'm only averaging 9.5 yards a catch. That's not good enough. That's not my standard. And he just called my standard out. So what can I do about that? Can I go have some conversations with my coaches, my colleagues, and the people around me so I can better myself in that way? Here's 5 things that I want you to take away from leaning into criticism that can be a benefit to your success. Number 1 is it enhances your self-awareness, because your blind spots, you don't know that you're blind there. So if you can have someone come and expose those blind spots to you, now you're more self-aware. I became more self-aware when my wife was able to talk through the blind spots that I had for myself personally. The other thing is it gives you a better potential to improve your performance and your skills. Well, when I was told that, hey, we need a new tight end, this guy is not good enough, I had to really examine, all right, what did he mean by that? Why do people feel like I'm not good enough? Okay. Now, after I examined that, I was able to improve on my performance and my skills because I leaned into the critique. Number 3 is this. It strengthened my resilience. Yeah, I got better. Yes, I learned from that. It improved that. It strengthened my resiliency, learning how to take criticism. Number 4 is this. Better relationships and communication. Because I know some of the blind spots, because I know some of the things I did not consider when I'm communicating with my wife, when I'm communicating with my kids, when I was looking at different people in business, according to my wife, it improved the way I engaged with all of these different aspects of my life. Because someone was willing, I don't know if she was willing, I literally almost had to make her be critical of me as a person. But she was willing. She did it. Number 5 is this, and I think is really important. You become more innovative and you become more creative, because now that box that you were in becomes much, much bigger. Now you're able to go a little bit outside of your circle that you had prior to the criticism, to the critique. Now you have more creativity. Now you have more innovation because you have less blind spots. So again, to sum this all up, listen to your haters or listen to the critique, the criticism, the constructive criticism. Lean into it. Find out, I wonder why that person feels that way. Maybe there's some truth to that, because we don't learn a whole lot to people who just pat us on the back and tell us how well we're doing. Hey, my man Bernie Dine, you have to go and listen to this podcast today at 12 o'clock when it releases. YouTube, right down there. Go to www.youtube.com @Principles of Winning. Look for the podcast. Season 1 is almost up. We only got like 3 more episodes for season 1. And then we're going to go into season 2 where we're going to bang even harder on these principles of winning. And I appreciate you joining me. I love all of you guys. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to continue to live out my purpose, which is to enhance the lives of others through any resource or any resource that I have available to me, within reason, to my family, whom I respect and I love, but at every opportunity trying to transform strangers and associates alike into extended family members. As I continue on my journey with Proverbs 16:3, commit everything that I do to the Lord, and he will establish my plans. Hope you guys have a great day out there. Check out the podcast, Principles of Winning.